Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. My name's Tony, and I never thought I'd be the man checking his wife's stories. For 10 years, Rachel and I built a life that looked steady from the outside. Quiet home, shared routines, vacations once a year. I wasn't jealous, not the type to snoop or question every detail. But the weekend she left for a girls' trip to Harbor Point, one small thing flipped the switch. She had rushed out the door Friday morning, laughing on the phone with one of her coworkers, a small crossbody purse slung over her shoulder. Nothing unusual except the faint, unfamiliar perfume trailing behind her. Not the kind I'd ever bought her, and not one I'd smelled in our house before. I told myself it didn't matter, kissed her cheek, and wished her a good weekend. That night, while tidying up, I noticed her overnight tote still sitting on the entry bench, half-zipped, like she'd unpacked it in a hurry or forgot to take it. That caught my attention. She hadn't mentioned going anywhere Thursday night, but something about the way the tote slouched open looked off. I picked it up to move it. As I lifted it, something slid from the side pocket. A paper sleeve, the kind hotels use to hold keycards. It was stamped with the Harbor Point Marina Hotel logo. Rachel had told me they were renting a cottage. Girl time, no Wi-Fi, no distractions. The sleeve didn't fit that story. I snapped a photo and tucked it back where I found it. The next evening, an old acquaintance, Miles Ortega, messaged me out of nowhere. He'd moved to Denver years ago. We hadn't talked since. His text read, "Hey, weird question. Was Rachel in Harbor Point this weekend? Pretty sure I saw her at the rooftop bar near Bay Street. She wasn't wearing a ring, so I didn't say hi. Just thought I'd ask." I stared at his message until the words blurred. My first instinct wasn't anger. It was a calculation. I took a screenshot, saved it in a locked folder. Then I walked to the bedroom, opened Rachel's vanity drawer, and there it was, her wedding ring. She had taken it off and left it behind before she even walked out the door Friday morning. Two separate signals, the hotel keycard and the ring she'd left at home. I didn't call her. I didn't confront her. Instead, I told myself, slow down, stay quiet, collect facts. If she was lying, I wanted to see how deep it went. By Sunday morning, the weight of that hotel sleeve and Miles's text hadn't left my mind. I needed clarity, not arguments. So I started checking details. First, I called Clara Nguyen. She's the partner of one of Rachel's coworkers and had supposedly gone on the same trip. "Hey, Clara," I said lightly. "Rachel mentioned you all had a nice getaway. Which place did you stay at? I'm thinking of booking something similar for us later this year." Clara hesitated, then said, "Oh, the Harbor Point Marina Hotel. The one with the rooftop bar. Rachel didn't tell you?" That didn't match Rachel's version at all. She told me about a private off-grid cottage, no internet, just wine and chatter. A different story for me, another for Clara. I thanked her, acted casual, and hung up. Later, I checked our joint bank alerts. Saturday morning showed a rideshare charge that started at the Harbor Point Marina Hotel, the same name printed on that sleeve. A few lines down, a brunch receipt popped up. 2 entrees, 1 bill, just under $40. I snapped photos of everything. By the time Rachel came home that evening, I was calm, ready to listen. "Missed me?" she asked, smiling widely. "Of course," I said, taking her bag. My pulse stayed steady, even as I caught a faint whiff of that new perfume again. She dropped onto the couch, kicked off her sandals, and said, "Clara snores like a bear, by the way." I barely slept. I laughed on cue. "That bad?" "The worst. You'd never survive it." I nodded, biting back the truth. Rachel had told me they rented a remote private cabin. No distractions, no Wi-Fi. But now she was talking like they shared a room. A completely different setup. I played my part, pouring her a glass of wine and asking about their dinners, their conversations, their shopping. She filled in details easily, like a story rehearsed in her head. All the while, I kept track. What she said, what Clara said, what the receipts proved. Piece by piece, the puzzle was forming. Monday morning, Rachel hummed in the kitchen while making coffee. She kissed my cheek like everything was normal, grabbed her bag, and left for work. The second her car pulled away, I sat at the table and opened my laptop. I had already drafted an email at 2 a.m. to a family lawyer named Elena Park. Her firm was highly recommended for discretion. I hit send before I could talk myself out of it. At her office, Elena didn't waste time. She asked direct questions. "Are you looking for proof, or are you ready for an exit?" Both, I told her. I don't want her to see it coming. She nodded. Then don't confront her. Don't tip your hand. Quietly build a record. Bank statements, photos, conversations. If she doesn't know, that's your advantage. I left with a folder of notes and the first real sense of control I'd felt in days. Back home, I set up a clean process. I synced Rachel's family iPad to our shared account, something she rarely touched. Notifications started to drip in, calendar updates, photo backups. Most were routine. Then one caught my eye, a draft itinerary saved to the iPad calendar. It listed initials, R and S, next to a Harbor Point dinner reservation. Who was S? I tested her story. That evening, I said, I might schedule a client dinner on Friday. You're free, right? She smiled too quickly. Yeah, of course. No plans. But the itinerary said otherwise. She couldn't even keep her cover consistent with her own devices. I wrote it down in my notebook. Initials S plus Rachel, Harbor Point reservation, Friday. Another contradiction. Another thread in the unraveling. I didn't need to blow up her lies. Not yet. Every time she contradicted herself, she handed me another piece. And I was going to collect all of them before making a single move. Friday came fast. Rachel left the house at 8:15 a.m., blazer sharp, hair pinned like she was headed for something important. She kissed me on the forehead. Don't forget lunch, she said, like I was a kid she needed to remind. Then she walked out the door. Her calendar said she had a donor breakfast. The iPad, though, showed R and S, Museum Cafe, 9:30. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my jacket, drove into the city, and parked across from the museum entrance. At 9:42, she appeared. Rachel wasn't alone. A man walked beside her, early 30s, slim build. He wore a leather strap bracelet and carried himself like he belonged at her side. I took a photo with my phone, zoomed enough to see their hands brushing. Her ring finger was bare. They sat outside at the cafe. I stayed across the street, hidden behind a delivery truck. From there, I saw it all. The easy laughter, her leaning closer than necessary, her hand on his wrist when he cracked a joke. They looked practiced, like this wasn't the first time. 10 minutes later, she pulled her phone out, laughing as he leaned toward her screen. I clicked another photo. My stomach stayed calm, surprisingly calm. This wasn't a suspicion anymore. It was a fact. When I got home, she was already back in sweats, stirring soup on the stove. The donor breakfast went long, she said casually. Big ideas for next season. I leaned against the counter, nodded. Sounds productive. Exhausting, she replied, rolling her shoulders. But worth it. I studied her face, how smoothly the lie came out. If I hadn't been there that morning, I might have believed her. I didn't push. I didn't accuse. I smiled back, already writing her words into my notebook under a single heading. Donor breakfast. Lie. By next week, I knew Rachel's pattern. She lied smoothly, carried herself like the story would always hold, and believed I was still blind. That gave me space to set the trap. Friday evening, I brought up an idea while we cleared dinner plates. What do you think about spending next weekend at your parents' lake house? Just us. Been a while. Rachel froze for half a second, then stretched, forcing a smile. I wish I could, Tony. We've got the springboard meeting at the gallery. I have to be there Sunday morning. I dried a plate slowly. Board meeting? Got it. She nodded, relieved I didn't press. But I wasn't done. That night, while she scrolled on her phone, I opened my laptop. Earlier that afternoon, from a clean alias account, I'd sent a request to book a private consult with her gallery for Sunday morning, just to see what came back. Within an hour, I received a polite reply. We're closed on Sundays. Please contact us during business hours. Now I had it in writing, not just a suspicion, but confirmation. The next step was practical. I leased a small apartment across town in my name, signed for 6 months, and moved important documents there. Passport, tax records, a few personal things I didn't want in the house when the time came. No theatrics, just preparation. Before leaving for a solo weekend at a rented lake cabin, I made one last adjustment. In the living room, hidden in a hollowed-out book on the shelf, I placed a small motion-triggered camera. Legal, discreet, angled straight at the couch. I didn't expect a show. I wanted confirmation. Saturday morning, I told Rachel, I'll head out early, take some time at the lake, clear my head. You should enjoy a quiet weekend. She kissed me on the cheek. You deserve it. I drove off, my chest steady, my plan already in motion. By evening, from the cabin, I opened my laptop, logged into the feed, and waited to see whether the silence in our home would hold. The footage loaded grainy at first, then cleared. Our living room, quiet, familiar. For 2 hours, nothing happened. Then, around 7, the side door opened. Sammy stepped inside like he belonged there. He didn't knock, didn't pause. Rachel greeted him with 2 glasses already in her hand. They sat close on the couch, laughing, their knees brushing like it was natural. I didn't need audio to understand the rhythm between them. Her body leaned toward him, not away. She touched his arm once, then again. He whispered something, and she threw her head back, laughing, an expression I hadn't seen from her in months. My hand tightened on the edge of the desk, but I stayed still. This was why I'd set the camera. Proof that didn't rely on my word against hers. They didn't stay long. After less than an hour, he kissed her cheek, and she walked him out. No drama, no rush. Like it was routine. Rachel returned to the kitchen, still smiling. I sat back in the chair, closed my laptop, and exhaled. That was the moment everything shifted. No more questions, no more maybes. She'd handed me certainty in her own voice. By midnight, I had arranged the files neatly. Screenshots, receipts, photos, and now video. I copied them to a secure drive and labeled the folder with one word: exit. Rachel thought she was ahead, that her lies covered the trail. But she didn't see the ground falling away beneath her. I lay down in the cabin bed. For the first time in weeks, I slept without staring at the ceiling. I had everything I needed. Now it was just about timing. I waited a week before setting the stage. Rachel kept acting like nothing had changed. Ring back on her finger, cheerful chatter at dinner, casual kisses on the way out the door. She thought she was safe. That illusion worked in my favor. On Thursday, I told her, let's host a small dinner tomorrow. Just us and a couple of people we haven't seen in a while. It'll be good to reconnect. She hesitated, then smiled. Sure. Who's coming? Clara, her partner, and Darren, I said evenly. Her brother Darren Pierce had always been protective. If anyone would see through her spin, it was him. She couldn't refuse without raising questions, so she nodded. All right, I'll pick up wine and flowers. Friday night, she dressed casually but flawlessly, and even put on the playlist from our wedding dinner. I set the table, lit candles, and poured wine. My phone vibrated once in my pocket at 6:15, the signal. Right then, every person I'd selected received an email from an anonymous account. Inside was a tidy package, screenshots of receipts, photos from Harbor Point, her calendar entries with Sammy's initials, and a 30-second clip from the living room. No commentary, just facts. Rachel was arranging napkins when her phone buzzed. Then again, and again. The sound filled the room like a drumbeat. She glanced at the screen, her face draining of color. She unlocked it, read in silence, and froze. I set down my wine glass and asked, calm as ever, where did the Harbor Point keycard come from, Rachel? She stared at me, wide-eyed. Tony, what did you do? Just asked a question. Her mouth opened, closed, then finally, it's complicated. Complicated, I repeated. You'll be fine without me. You've had practice. Rachel's eyes filled, but no words came. She didn't chase me, didn't beg. She just stood in the doorway, phone trembling in her hand as I walked out. That was the last night I slept in that house. 6 months have passed since the night I walked out. I live in a one-bedroom apartment. Small, plain. Every item inside belongs to me and no one else. The silence feels different here. Not heavy, not suspicious. Just quiet. The divorce moved faster than I expected. With the evidence I had gathered, there were no long battles, no drawn-out negotiations. Rachel signed the papers quietly, almost mechanically, as if the fight had already drained out of her. We divided what needed dividing. It wasn't dramatic, it was final. And in that finality, I felt something I hadn't in years. Absolute freedom. I've started seeing someone, Isabella Flores. I told her everything from the beginning. No secrets, no half-truths. She listened without judgment. You did what you had to do, she said once, her hand steady on mine. With her, I moved slowly, cautious, but honest. It feels like a clean start. As for Rachel, I heard she left the gallery and took a position at another arts center across town. We haven't spoken since that dinner. I haven't needed to. I later heard through Darren that things with Sammy, the mysterious S, didn't last. Whatever thrill Rachel thought she had found burned out quickly once the secrecy was gone. He wasn't looking for permanence, only distraction, and the moment her life grew complicated, he stepped away. Their so-called connection collapsed under the weight of reality, leaving her not with a partner, but with silence. In the end, she lost more than a marriage. She lost the illusion that Sammy was ever going to replace me. One night, while clearing out old folders on my laptop, I found the photo of the hotel keycard sleeve I'd taken months ago. The first clue. The small slip that set everything in motion. I stared at it for a long time, then deleted it. Because the truth is, that card wasn't just proof of her betrayal. It was the moment she freed me. She removed her ring, she let herself be someone else, and in doing that, she gave me permission to stop pretending we were still us. I don't wish her harm. I don't wish her back either. All I wanted was peace, and I finally have it. Walking out wasn't revenge. It was release. And the moment I closed that door, I knew I'd never look back. Thank you for watching.